following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up, to stand up and fight back.
Welcome to Speak Up. My name is Kevin Avard, your host, and today we are joined with Senator Bob Smith, and I'm honored that you're here, Senator. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, Kevin. Glad to be here.
And now the campaign is starting to get heated up a little bit more, the primaries, and we had Karen Testament on, we've had Jim Rubens on, and we have you on now.
But you haven't had Brown on.
I don't suspect we are going to have Brown on. We'll put the invitation out there.
He probably won't come.
It's been said in a lot of circles that I talk with that you're probably the most conservative of all the candidates that are out there. And I believe that's possibly true. Compared to Brown, you're definitely conservative. Can you tell me a little bit about your campaign? What distinguishes you from Senator Brown?
Well, a lot. I mean, the thing, I think, first of all, we're running a grassroots campaign. And, you know, in politics, there are two phrases that you use. One is kind of the rifle bore approach, where you go out and meet the voter one-on-one, like I'm talking to you now. I do a lot of that, a lot of phone calls, a lot of personal meetings. They had a couple of personal meetings today in the Seacoast. And you do that, and you do coffees and events and so forth, just to, and you have, we have a volunteer grassroots organization team that's working 24/7 out there all over the state. And then you have the other side, which is the carpet bomb approach, which is Scott Brown and others, where you go out, raise a ton of money, and have it dumped on you. Basically, you're the handpick of the establishment, and you just carpet bomb. You just throw the money on the media, and you cover everybody, and you figure you'll pick up everybody in the net, like you were talking about before we were on the air about going fishing, and you throw the big net out there, you get everybody. But that basically is an insult to the voters. I've been outspent and won many elections in my career, and so I don't think money doesn't vote. You know, so that doesn't concern me. It's a little disconcerting as you get down at the end and you watch all these ads and you're not up there maybe, but people, I've had voters tell me they wouldn't care how much he spent. They're not going to vote for him because they don't agree with the issues. But here's the whole point here. You know, Scott Brown is a resident of New Hampshire. He has a right to run. Well, yeah, was he a Massachusetts resident? Yes, he was. But he moved up here. He's got a home here. So I don't make any argument. That's fine.
Right.
But my concern are the issues. What is it that the Republican Party stands for? They always talk about Bob Smith being too conservative or whatever. Well, let's analyze that for a moment. Let's take it point by point. The Republican Party platform is pro-life.
Right.
Bob Smith is pro-life. Not only am I pro-life, I led the fight on the issue for 18 years in the Congress, including writing the partial birth abortion ban bill and leading the effort on the floor when people said it didn't happen.
Yeah.
That's number one. Scott Brown is not pro-life. So we'll talk about now who's in the party, who is the party, who isn't the party. Second point, pro-gun. Bob Smith is pro-gun. Had an A+ record with the Gun Owners of America and the National Rifle Association for 18 years.
Right.
Every vote, A+. No exceptions to the best of my knowledge.
And there's a ton of legislation right now that are attacking our Second Amendment rights.
My point exactly. And the Republican Party is pro-gun. We go to Scott Brown. Scott Brown is not. He voted for the assault. He voted to ban assault voted to ban assault rifles. He also voted to deny reciprocity, so people can, if you take your gun carry your weapon, your gun in New Hampshire and go across the border to Massachusetts, they could put you in jail.
Right.
So there are 2 issues. Now let's go to a couple more. Another one called Dodd-Frank, which is a regulatory bill which regulates the financial services industry. He voted for it proudly, his words, proudly. We are against regulation. We are against strangling businesses as a party. We want to open it up. We want businesses to have the opportunity to produce. I'm opposed to Dodd-Frank and would have voted against it had I been there. Minimum wage, a major tenet of our party. You don't have a government-mandated minimum wage law. That's between the employer and employee. Bob Smith opposed to a minimum wage bill put on, which is run by the federal government dictating a minimum wage. Brown voted for it in the legislature in Massachusetts, and when he was asked a question this last week, ducked the question, didn't give an answer. 62% of the time Brown votes with the Democrats, 98% of the time I voted with the Republicans. Go down the line, list item after item after item after item. So my point is, it's not about Scott Brown personally. My point is this: who are we as Republicans? Now, when we go to the general election, let's fast forward, it's September 10th. Every candidate, every speaker that has been in this state over the last 6 weeks, in campaigning here in the state, Republicans, and I've been to Carroll County events and all these Republican events. We've had Mike Huckabee, we've had Newt Gingrich, we've had Rand Paul, we've had Mike Lee, we've had who else? Whatever. Every one of them has said, without exception, we must show the clear differences between who they are and who we are. Right. And it's very simply this: we on this side believe in freedom and opportunity and the chance for people to move up the ladder and to be happy and secure their prosperity, whatever they want. It's their life. Right. On the other side, you have the central planners, i.e. Shaheen, who says you can keep your doctor if you want to. That's very nice, sir. Thank you.
Funny.
But that's what we're up against, the central planners. Right. I mean, so we need to know as a party who we are. Are we the party of Scott Brown, or are we the party of Bob Smith? And people say, well, Bob Smith's too conservative. Read the platform of the party. Yeah. I'm not outside the platform of the party. Brown is. Right. Now, I just want to address one more thing. All this stuff about Brown being the perceived winner, there's going to be a rude awakening before this thing is over. I mean, the people are sick and tired of losing their freedoms, and more regulation and more government control is not the answer. It's less, and that's what I stand for.
Right. It seems to me that the insiders, if you will, whether it's under
central planners,
the central planners,
establishment.
in both the establishment. That's actually the word I was actually looking for. But in both parties, it doesn't matter who. We're in a $17 trillion debt. We mentioned this a little while ago, and something's got to click up here. Something, if we're going to pick the winners and losers, from national television. Okay, This is the pretty boy. This is the pretty girl. These are the ones that we want you to have. We don't have representation anymore.
No. And here's the way you stop it. Don't vote for the people.
Right.
That, if you don't like big money in politics, don't vote for it.
Right.
Vote for somebody else who's coming up and trying to run a campaign the grassroots way. Look, I've run campaigns for years, as I said, and I've won many of them with just a grassroots organization with tons of money being spent against me. So it can be done, and it's up to the people to do it. And there's the whole network, if you will, with the establishment and this insidious relationship between big money, big government, and the so-called big-name candidates. That's not what it's about. That's not what America's about. I mean, are we going to be basically, is it going to come down to the fact that you have to be a millionaire to run for office, or even a billionaire? Or is it that maybe we should just be able to have the average guy or gal get up and say, you know what, I can run, and I have a chance to win.
I believe in that dream. I believe in that.
I lived it.
And it should continue. And people need to believe that and vote that way. What really troubles me is I haven't seen a whole lot of pictures of you on Facebook with the GOP leaders. And that's bothering me, Senator. It really bothers me because I only see one person there. And that tends to mean an endorsement prior to the primary. And I find that offensive, honestly, in that it's either Scott Brown doing and I don't know him personally, I haven't met him, but I haven't seen them cozying up with you or up with Karen Testerman or up with Senator Rubins. It's as though they've picked it for us, and this is what we have to take. And if we don't go this way, then we're going to have Senator Shaheen.
Well, this is what I keep coming back to, is the term central planners. It's people that think they know more than the average person. They think they know more than the people. They can sit in a powerful position like the establishment of the Republican Party in both Concord and in Washington, and they can dictate who the candidate will be, and therefore the candidate doesn't have to come out and participate in shows like this where he might get asked a tough question or participate in a debate. I mean, we've done several common events now with call them debates. They're really not debates, but we speak. He hasn't shown up at any of them, except Brown hasn't, except for the one with the state party.
He's just waiting for the coronation,
I guess. But the point is, think about that. We have elections. This is America. We choose our candidates by elections. And it's an insult to the voters of New Hampshire for this party or any party to say, this is the person that we want to be the nominee. Now, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, Brown may be the victim of this. I mean, he came up here and he wants to be the senator, but you better get out there and meet the voters if you want to do it.
That's the New Hampshire way.
That is the New Hampshire way. And you don't recall because you're too young, I don't, but in the 60s, Barry Goldwater and Nelson Rockefeller squared off up here in a primary, and people got fed up with it because they were attacking each other. And you know what happened? They wrote in Henry Cabot Lodge, and he won the presidential primary up here. So the point is, this is just really unbelievable to me. And but you know, here's my point. It goes way beyond the political party, the Republican Party. This election is not about Smith or Brown or anybody else, or Shaheen for that matter. And it's not about the Republican Party. It's about the country. The country's at stake. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something, Kevin. If it comes down to losing my party or losing my country, I'm coming down on losing my party. Right. I don't want to lose my country. I don't want to be remembered as somebody who lost their country. So I am going to do everything I can with every breath that I have, which is why I'm back. I love John Grisham. I could be sitting on the beach reading Grisham novels. But that's not how you save your country. You got to step up. You got to meet the challenge, and that's what we want to do.
I'm only 51.
You don't look it. You look great.
That's the tan. And the cod liver oil. But you know, I've seen a lot of changes since I was in my 20s, and when you were in the Senate, and you know, there was still an amount of integrity in my mind. What was going on there? I look at Washington now. I'm so fearful of it just totally growing completely out of control. I mean, right now I look at Washington. I say this is a lawless place. They're picking and choosing. This president doesn't care about our laws. Yeah. And I want somebody to get up there. I've watched this over and over and over and over with my party, where they get up, they're ready to take the swing, and back down. Yeah. And you get this kick, and you got, wait a minute, yeah. You were right there, you had him. Come on, let's talk about the truth. Let's talk about the issues. And then, oh, well, you know, a deal was made.
We are not guiltless in the contributions that we as a party have made to this mess. And anybody who says that is just lying. And there's no point in taking that approach. We've got to look inward at ourselves, look in the mirror. John Roberts was wrong when he voted the way he did on the Obamacare. George Bush was wrong when he added $6 trillion to our national debt. And many of the Republicans have been caught in countless scandals are wrong when they did that. But there are good people on both sides of the aisle, and you can have a respectful debate. I mean, I started earlier in the conversation, we were talking a little bit about background. And, you know, my character, my dad was killed when I was 3 years old. He was killed, he survived the war, came home and was killed in a military aircraft right after getting home, after all the combat missions that he flew. And so my mom had two little boys, and she was a widow, and moved to my grandparents' farm, and that's where I was raised. And I learned on that farm, and my mother worked and raised by grandparents, about character and about work and hard work and making something of yourself that Nobody gives you anything. That's not who we are as a people. I'm just using myself as an example. And I grew up and learned to have respect for, for laws and respect for people who serve in government as they're supposed to be. And I was able to be elected to the United States Senate. I didn't have any money. I wasn't rich. I was, at one point I was looking at some of the folks that I was serving with. Judd Gregg's dad was a rich, political politician. Charlie Bass's father was a rich politician. He was rich. And then Bill Zelliff had a lot of money. He was up at the Christmas Farm Inn. You had all these people with all this money, and here was Bob Smith. He had just common guy. Yeah. And I like that. And that's what the American dream is.
I agree.
I don't begrudge anybody who makes money. That's fine. That's America. The idea that you have, good for you. And I'm not jealous. But and you can do with it what you want to do with it. But the American dream is to try to move up that ladder, not to be told, not to be dictated to, not to say you will be here. We're going to give you this. No, you have the equal opportunity to earn, not be given something. And I'm watching this in our country, and I'm thinking, wow, where are we going? This country, we have an almost $18 trillion debt. We're going to get to the point where we're not going to be able to pay the interest on the debt, and when that happens, you know what happens. You're going to default, and those of us who have government bonds, or the Chinese or anybody else who are buying our bonds, you're going to get whatever, I don't know, 20 cents on the dollar, 15 cents on the dollar, who knows? We'll now become a debtor nation, and if that happens, and we will not have the strong military, the strong presence in the world that we've always had, we're not going to be the great country that we were. Now, I don't want to see that happen. And I'm not going to sit around and let it happen.
And that's what this president is actually doing right now. He's cutting our military. Just about every one of our friends we're alienating. That's going to be in your camp when you win, is that you're going to have to talk about all these foreign deals that were, that's part of your department, right?
Yeah. I mean, I served on the Armed Services Committee for years. I was there when Reagan was doing the fight on missile defense, and how he basically bluffed Gorbachev into thinking that we had the capability to shoot his missiles down when we didn't.
Right.
And we should have had it. I mean, if they'd listened to Reagan, we would have developed the whole system.
Right.
But, leadership is an action word. It might be a noun, but it's also a verb. Leadership means action, right. And verb is action. And you don't just put your finger to the wind and say, okay, the polls say I should do this, so I'll go that way. That's not leadership. And we so desperately need leadership right now. I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how you can make it any clearer to the voters. How can they look at what's going on and not realize that we're losing our nation? And I don't want to see it happen. And we don't have to let it happen, because we can vote to change it. That's all it takes.
Right.
One final point, and I had another question. The founders look what they gave: their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor. Our military sacrificed their life and limb, and their families suffered because of it. And then now we have our children and grandchildren. We owe it to them.
Yep.
We owe it to them to step up
Yep.
and meet this challenge and do something about it, and stop sitting around being on the take and taking money or not changing things because we give up and we just sit around and send emails all day and don't do anything. If you want to change America, join me, because I'm going to do it. Because I am not going to kick the can down the road. And that's what's happening. And liberal and moderate and rhino Republicans are just as bad as Democrats. Here comes the can, kick it. And we'll pass a 5-year budget, cut all the cuts in the 5th year, come back next year, pass another 5-year budget, and put all the cuts in the 5th year again. Right. That's kicking the can down the road, and both parties do it.
And that's enslaving your children. And
exactly.
One of the things that, I'm running for state senate myself here in District 12 against Peggy Gilmore. But one of the things that I hear, I have a little carpet cleaning business. I'm in people's homes all the time. I do the grunt work. I'm on my hands and knees. I really am. I'm moving the couch. I'm finding the change. I'm giving it back. I'm giving it back, though. But I'm cleaning it. But I'm a junkie. I'm a junkie when it comes to politics. I have been since I was a kid. I engage my customers, and we talk. And I can talk to the very rich. I've done mansions. I've done the Audley mansions, and I've done the poorest of people in this state. I've done cat women, where they've had 13 cats in their house.
I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah. But what I mean by that is I'm in all kinds of houses, and I talk to all kinds of people, and I see the concern, and we talk about Obamacare, and it's starting to hit the fan. And,
Sure.
and I'm talking to bankers that are out of work, and well, I didn't apply for, I didn't qualify for the ACA, so they pushed me on Medicaid.
Yep.
And so they're trying to create a welfare state.
That's right.
And
It's the goal. One payer, one single payer system.
And what was supposed to be a $2,500 reduction is now $11,000 bill for some people. It's a mortgage, and people are just, well, what do I do? I need to know, if you get elected, will you abolish or vote to repeal completely this disaster?
I will vote to totally repeal it. I wish I could say I could abolish it unilaterally.
Right.
And it's going to take another probably 59 or 60 votes along with me. But if we can get the people with the guts to stand up and do it, and the answer is absolutely, it must be abolished. Think about it. We are requiring people to buy something in America. What's next? I mean,
Exactly.
when Jean Shaheen stood on the floor and said you can keep your doctor if you want to, well, what's next? Your religion?
You know what?
Maybe it's your dog or your wife. Who knows? I mean, how about how many children you have? Well, where do we draw the line here?
It's central government and their
Exactly, central planners.
And here's our federal money. Here's how you're going to live, and I hate that little
Well, it's class warfare too. Obama's constantly saying the middle class, the poor, the rich, and dividing us up into class warfare. The beauty of America is that can rise right up through. You can start as a janitor in a company and go right up and be the CEO. Doesn't happen often, but it can happen. And a lot of them move up. And that's the beauty of America. You go out, you're a peasant in China somewhere, you're a peasant from the time you're 15 to the time you're 115. I mean, you're never going to get out of that class.
Right. Another one of the concerns that people aren't even aware of, there's hearings right now about the ACA, and I want to keep bringing this up because the more I learn about it, the more I find how incredibly disastrous this is.
Unfair.
That when you sign up for the ACA, did you know that you're actually waiving your HIPAA rights? Mm-hmm. There's a hearing on it. They showed it. You're actually, all expectations of privacy are now gone.
Sure. Yeah, and it might be comforting for you to know that the Acorn people are some of the ones that are taking your information.
I'm comforted about that.
Does that make you feel good?
Through the IRS.
Through the IRS, whose commissioner just took the fifth before Congress.
Right.
Because she was harassing, her agency was harassing people because of their political beliefs. This is serious business.
It is.
And people better understand it, because so many, if you look, and if you're a student of history as I am, you know that great empires, great nations rose and fell. If you lasted 200 years, it was very, Rome longer, obviously, but most nations don't stay on top very long. And we've been up there, what, a couple of 100 years?
Yep.
And then, we better be careful here.
Right.
And I don't know, Reagan, I think, has said, freedom is not free. It costs a lot and to keep it. And I hope that we understand that before it's too late.
One of the things that troubled me that in the past, I don't know how it passed the Senate as well, Senator, but this thing called the NDAA, the National Defense Act of America, it's basically the Patriot Act on steroids, which basically suspends habeas corpus and allows the military to come knocking on your door. And, well, did I say knocking? I'm sorry. They can just open it and take whatever they want and take you and put you in a concentration camp if the government found that you were some kind of a threat. Or thought you were some kind of a threat.
On that very point is a very interesting point, and I must confess, somebody called my attention to it, and I went back to the Constitution and looked. Everybody knows what the Second Amendment is, and of course I'm a strong supporter of it, as you are. But not too many people remember the Third Amendment. And the Third Amendment to the Constitution is about quartering troops in your home. Think about the sequence. You have the right to protect yourself with arms, the Second Amendment. They were so concerned about it that they wanted to make very sure that the British and anybody that was watching the emergence of this new nation, that with quartering of troops or anything like that by any government authority would not be tolerated without total support of the people, which is what the Third Amendment said, no quartering of troops without the permission of the owners, of the home owners. So this is, the founders got it right. I mean, people talk all the time about changing the Constitution. There isn't a heck of a lot that they got wrong. I can't think of much. And I can't think of anything, to be honest with you, in the early, and I love it when people say, well, Madison meant this, or Monroe meant that, or Washington meant this. Well, let's read what he said.
Yeah.
When you read what he says and what they say he meant, it's amazing the difference, the divergence.
It occurred to me that, I'm hearing it a lot through liberal circles and buzzwords, and how that they're trying to stem up this idea that the Constitution's an old document.
Yeah, I know.
But you know what's older than the Constitution? Slavery. Worldwide, slavery. And our Constitution freed us from that. And so you start messing with the Constitution and breaking it down, watering it down, and becoming a lawless executive branch or a lawless
society.
Then what you're doing is you're breaking down your country, and then we're going to look like what is called one of those governments that what's the name of it when you're down south? I'm just trying to think of.
I'm not sure what you mean. Jim Crow laws?
No, I'm just not. I'm talking like South America. One of those.
Oh, Banana Republic.
Banana Republic. Thank you. Sorry.
It's all right.
We're on here. We can edit that.
That's all right.
But and that being the case, then everybody loses hope. You know, this whole idea of this hope and change, it's a ruse. It was a mirage.
It is. And when you, and debt, the kind of debt that America has, where they're extracting more and more money from those who are really the wage producers, the people who are producing in this country and creating the jobs, the more they extract, the worse it gets.
Right.
And this is the goal. This is the goal of those who, to keep going back to the term, central planners, those who know best. They plan your life. I can't believe that given what our founders provided for us with the document that they gave us, that the American people are going to sit by and let this country fail. I have the optimism of Reagan. I still am not negative. I know it's happening, but I believe that we can change it. I remember the years when Carter would sit when he was in the White House, and he would shiver, and he had his sweater, and he'd turn your thermostat down, and we'll save energy. And Reagan, he said, "Come on, it's America. We're going to drill for energy.
Let's go chop wood too, right?
Let's go. This is America. Step up."
That's right.
And look at the difference. I mean, it gives you goosebumps. You see the guy. It's like night and day. Sometimes just take a picture of Reagan and put it next to a picture of Obama, and think, "Wow,
what happened?
How did we get two people that different elected to this office?"
Everything in between was moderate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's how I feel.
Well, think about this, though, Kevin. You were talking about the Constitution. The people who threw off the king and gave us the revolution, the Washingtons and the Samuel Adams and the Patrick Henrys and the Nathan Hales and all those people these are the Thomas Paine, these are the times that try men's souls. These guys weren't squishes in the middle.
Right.
They believed in something. And if it hadn't been for them, we'd all be speaking quite like this, I think, right now, don't you think?
And if we don't all hang together, we'll certainly hang separately.
Yeah. Ben Franklin. Yeah.
We're hearing a lot about Texas lately, and the governor down there seems to be doing a fantastic job. And one of the things he was talking about was one of his successes is obviously low taxes and deregulation.
Yeah, of course.
How can that work for New Hampshire?
Same way. I mean, Rick Perry's been very aggressive in terms of doing just that, deregulating, and people are moving there with their businesses from California and from others, New York, and from other states, and because the environment is friendly. We also have trillions of dollars offshore where companies, large American companies, have moved and taken their money with them and the jobs, because it's less regulation. They can produce more for less, and why not just say to them, "Come on back, bring your trillions back. We'll give you some amnesty for that. Just bring it back, put it into investing in new jobs, and away we go." Yeah. And so that's what Rick Perry is smart to do that, Governor Perry. And We're losing jobs here
Big time.
in
We're
New
not,
Hampshire because of
we're
it.
not, I don't see a whole lot of new jobs coming
No.
to New Hampshire.
No, because
And
the
then
tax
we just-
environment's getting worse, and you know you can't businesses are not going to produce. Mel Thompson would turn over in his grave, and all the things that he
Well,
proposed.
just think, we just expanded Medicaid,
Yeah,
right?
and they're going to regret that
They're
big
going
time.
to totally regret
3
that.
years from now, they're going to the government's going to pull the plug, and they're going to be eating all of that.
Right, and who's going to pay for it? I'm going to tell you what,
Yeah.
Grandma is going to pay
Yeah.
for that with higher taxes. You
Well,
know,
so will grandson down the road.
And grandson.
All of them.
And the point is, it's going to expand the welfare. Why are we expanding welfare?
That's
why
what
aren't
we did.
Why aren't we making more jobs?
We made Medicaid recipients now up into the $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 range with that decision. I don't understand it. And Republicans voted for it.
Exactly, and that's why I'm running. And I'm going to tell you what, I think it just drives me nuts. I think it was Senator Bradley that said, well, if we don't make the 90 or 100%, or if we don't get the full funding, then if we don't have the courage to vote it out, then we ought to just give up. And I'm saying to you, we should have had the courage way before.
Yeah.
We should have had the courage.
Exactly.
And I'm just hoping that there wasn't a casino deal somewhere in the pipeline.
Not. I used to hear that in Washington all the time, where somebody would say, you'd have a really bad bill, right? And it would come before the committee, and you'd hear the argument, well, why don't we just pass it here and we'll kill it on the floor?
Oh, I've heard that before.
And you have, and in the legislature, and I'm thinking, you know what? Why don't we just kill it here and not worry about killing it on the floor?
Exactly.
It's a bad bill. Let's kill it as soon as we can kill it.
What
And that's what
GS
happens. I mean, it's just, you hear the same thing in Congress, where they'll go to these conference committees when you pass something in the House and something in the Senate, and then they have to conference the bill, as you guys do in the New Hampshire House. And the thing is, that's where you get bad stuff too, because all kinds of stuff gets added.
Yep.
And Republicans add it, because I've been in those conference committees, and I've seen Republicans pound the table and add plenty of pork to those bills, which is totally unrelated to the subject of the bill itself.
Right, and how do we stop that?
Well, we stop it by not electing these people. See, this is what I keep, oftentimes when I'm out there, I'll hear people quote Jefferson out of the Declaration, where he said, if you have a tyrannical government, that you have the right to step up and overthrow it, or words to that effect, paraphrasing. But the truth is, Jefferson, when he wrote the Declaration, they didn't have the right to vote. That was a Declaration of Independence from a crown, from a king. We have the right to vote. We can throw these people out. That's what we need to do. Step up, throw them out. I don't care what their party is. I could care less. If they're a rhino, throw them out if they're voting for more money. If they're Democrats, throw them out if they're voting more. If they're independents, throw them out if they're voting. We've got to get a handle on it, and we can, because we still have those range, the votes. And if they take that away from us, then we're in big trouble. But right now, we still have it.
And they're working on that by getting rid of the electoral college.
I know, that's another.
Electrical.
It does give you a shock. I mean, the way they do it.
Yeah, well, it seems like at every point
That's a mistake to do that.
they're trying to undermine our system.
You know, the people that do that on that point, they don't understand the Constitution. They just totally don't understand. Either they do understand it, and they want to do it that way, because it's the United States of America. Each state was supposed to have the independence.
It's a
sovereign state.
Right.
So if you pass a law that throws the Electoral College out and has a total popular vote by popular vote, you think you're going to see anybody in Vermont or New Hampshire or Utah?
Hollywood, baby.
Hollywood, baby. I'm in California, New York, and Florida, Texas, wherever all those millions of people are, because you can get 25 million votes out of California and 2 out of New Hampshire. Who cares?
And it really truly becomes a dollar figure.
It is exactly right.
Who's going to buy it? Is India going to buy it?
By the
China?
election, and it'll be all the people who are wealthy or power-hungry people. And then the original intent of the Electoral College, the electors were actually supposed to just pick anybody, whether they were running for office or not. They had 2 votes. One, they could only vote for one person within their state if they wanted to. Then they voted for a second person, and then they went down. Then the electors, all the ballots were opened in December, I think 12th, and they counted them, and whoever got the most was the president. If he didn't get a majority, then they had another vote, and they took the top 3 and so forth. And that's the way it used to be. That would be kind of fun. You really wouldn't know until December the 12th who your president-elect was. And so it was. I mean, it would be pretty tough to change that right now. But my point in bringing it up is that the Electoral College has a purpose, and it is to keep it as the United States of America, not the United People of America, the United States of America, sovereign states, like you said, 50 of them.
One of the things
Not
that,
56 like Obama said, but 50.
I don't know what he had in mind.
He campaigned in all 56 states. Imagine if George Bush or Dan Quayle had said that.
Potato. I'll misspell things, so you can. I use spell check all the time, so I automatically admit it. Okay, it's just saying that on TV. I have a hard time spelling.
Yeah, well, you don't have to spell on TV.
Right. Yeah. But one of the things that really troubles me, just locally, all politics is local. Tip O'Neill said, and one of the things that I'm finding over and over again is that there seems to be little accountability in our local government as well. And I know that's bleeding up. I'm seeing it in the feds, with the feds, whether it's the IRS pleading the fifth, or Eric Holder in the gun gate there, and whatever. The Black Panthers just automatically, after they're convicted, are automatically let go. All this stuff, there's no accountability here. Yeah. And locally, we see the Attorney General's office raiding people's homes, accusing them of things, like Jeff Ross. I don't know if you know that story. I don't. Jeff Ross, his place was raided. The banking department went in. He had to defend himself all the way up to the Supreme Court. Cost him $185,000 to defend himself. After he was exonerated, he filed a petition with the state saying, look, I want my money back. I was innocent. And the Attorney General's office comes into our committee and they said, well, we misinterpreted the law. Oops. Well, if you misinterpreted the law and it cost this gentleman $185,000, why aren't you making him whole? FRM, there are all kinds of other things out there. Why aren't these people being made whole? Why are there all kinds of loopholes for the government, locally, statewide, and yet we see it. I saw it. I saw all judges, courts, the Attorney General's office, banking departments. Now, then we see it with the big boys as well, in the feds. If it's so corrupt here in our local, we got to get a hold here as well. But
well, they push it down. They push it down because the government uses its money. I saw it when I was on the Board of Education in a school board in Wolfboro. They would dangle money out. You can have $250,000 or $2 million or $5 million for some program, and all you have to do is take it. You can take it, and then you can run the program. But then you lose all control. The parents lose control. The board loses control, and the money begins to dictate everything.
Common Core.
Common Core is a good example, perfect example of it. Same thing.
4 people voted for that, and now it's all of a sudden a standard. We get the federal money, and then when the Fed's money runs out on top of that, which it will, it always does.
Yep. Then come the controls.
And then the taxpayers have to, and we don't like some of the stuff that we're seeing in this Common Core stuff. Some of the maths, some of the reading, some of the required reading. I'm hearing complaints, and people are afraid to complain. Teachers are complaining publicly. They're complaining privately.
Right.
But again, what business does the federal government have to do telling our little,
none.
Kindergartners?
It's unconstitutional. Half of the government agencies we have are unconstitutional. And we either have to we have to decide that we're going to work through and fix this or not. And look, let's be honest. This is not going to happen overnight. It's going to take it's pretty tough to tell a voter that you're seeking his or her vote that they have to lose something or give up something, or it might be a struggle. It's easier to tell them what they can get and how easy it is to get it if you want to just run to get elected rather than do your job. That's not what you're elected for. Hamsters get in that wheel and they go round and round and never get anywhere in the cage. Well, that's pretty much what a lot of politicians do. I get in that cage and I go, wee, and I say, okay, if I just tell the voters what I want, I can say, wee, and keep going around and around in there. But what's the point?
Yeah, I want somebody to
make
get
a difference, man.
Exactly. I want somebody to make some trouble.
Yeah, make a difference.
I don't want anybody to go in there to make friends. I want somebody to make a difference. I'm sick. I'm tired of Harry Reid being in so much control of our lives.
He is.
And yet,
pretty scary.
80% of his state, is that federal land? Is that?
Yeah, it's mostly federal land. I don't know what the percentage is. Pretty high, though.
That is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
I believe it isn't supposed to be more than 2 or 10%.
I don't know.
Some really low figure like
the larger state, the western states have really, they've really had a lot of their land usurped, and that's, of course, that's the issue with the ranch
Right.
issue right now.
Right,
in
and now
Nevada.
the EPA and this billionaire out west are holding up the Keystone pipeline.
Another
What is
example.
up with that?
It's just politics. Now here's, well, I don't know, gosh, it depends, 2, 3, 20,000 jobs. You can, all kinds of numbers thrown out there. We know it's a lot of jobs. And to build a pipeline to bring fuel here from Canada that's willing to send it to us.
Right.
And even EPA, for the most part, has cleared it, and Obama still won't do it. It just baffles me. I don't understand it.
I don't either, and I'm glad you're running. I know that we have other candidates as well, and I think probably you're the conservative, and that's a good thing.
Well, thank you for saying that. I mean, it's a big job. I wish you could, well, I don't wish it, because if I could do it without, if I could just do it unilaterally, then I'd be a dictator, and that's not good.
Right.
But I wish that we had the numbers. I wish we had the people who could see what this is. You hear so much about bipartisanship. You know, if bipartisanship means I got to go all the way over to the other side and compromise every principle that I have to meet their principles, no, I'm not for that.
Right.
Now, I'll give you an example. When Ted Kennedy was in the Senate and I was in the Senate, we didn't agree on anything that I know of, but we'd have good fights, and we'd take the floor and we'd go at each other. But when it was over, we'd take a vote, and whoever had the most votes won, and we'd shake hands. There wouldn't be no animosity at all. But today, we got to. Anytime a Republican goes over to the Democrat side, he's a hero. You hear it all the time with John McCain or Olympia Snowe or Susan Collins or Scott Brown who did it. I mean, Scott Brown bragged about it. I voted with the Democrats all the time, he said. That was his quote. It's on my website. Look at it. I vote with Democrats all the time.
What do you stand for? We talked about jellyfish, and in my mind, moderates mean jellyfish. What does a moderate stand for?
Well, nothing.
Right.
That's the whole point. It's about massaging this way and this way to try to, look, there's nothing wrong with reaching out and working with people for the good of the order if it's something that doesn't compromise your principles. There are things like, do I spend X number of dollars or Y number of dollars on a particular project? Or should we put something, maybe it's a Keystone pipeline, should it be done today or yesterday or tomorrow? I mean, those are kind of things you can compromise on with reasonable people, but when it comes down to basic points, I'm not going to change my position on life or guns or cutting taxes or regulations. I'm not, or
What
a
about
minimum
slavery?
wage.
What about slavery way back when? Wasn't it the Democrats that wanted slavery?
Of course.
Now,
They not only wanted it, they administered it.
They did, right? And they were against the 14th Amendment, equal protection under the law.
If Lincoln hadn't been assassinated, it got worse because Johnson was a Democrat president. When Lincoln got assassinated, that's when the South took over. The Southern Democrats took over all the Jim Crow laws were passed, and all the Reconstruction efforts that Lincoln put in place after the post-Civil War went down the drain when he was killed, and Johnson took over. And that stayed in place. And we had racist senators well up into the 30s, 40s.
Senator Byrd was a Ku Klux Klan. But do we compromise with that? I say no. You don't compromise with slavery.
No.
No. And so there are times where you have to take a stand.
Right, exactly.
And you want somebody to do that.
And that's the way it should be. And the way and people say, well, if you don't work together, you can't do it. Yes, you do, because you have the numbers. If you lose, if you want to pass gun control and you have 61 votes in the Senate, you can pass it.
Right.
Now, I hope we don't get to that point, but you can do it, and then you got to undo it again. So
right.
I want to have 61 votes against gun control and for the Second Amendment. But you count, you make the fight, and you count and let the votes determine what happens. You don't compromise. Can you imagine if the founders had been like the Scott Browns of today? They would be just on this side and that side. You know, if you look at the Revolution, 1/3 of the people roughly supported the king. 1/3 of the people supported the Revolution in Washington, George Washington, and the other third played both sides to try to see which side was going to win.
Right.
That's the same thing. The way it is today.
Right.
Exactly the way
That's
it
just
is.
human
But you
nature.
got to lead. You got to lead. And boy, do we ever need leaders. I mean, do we ever need leaders today more than step up, somebody.
And leading means to take a stand, and taking a stand on times. You know, you ever hear that country song, I was country before it was
yeah.
popular?
Barbara Mandrell.
Right. Well, I was conservative before it was
Yeah. I was Tea Party before Tea Party was cool, too.
And what is Tea Party? Tea Party is just regular people.
Regular, good, average American people who want to cut the debt so that they don't have to leave their kids mortgages instead of assets. That's all they stand for. They are good people, and they get trashed all the time by the establishment as if they don't want them in the party.
Because they're a threat to the establishment.
They are a threat to the establishment.
Right.
Yeah.
And
you know what? The Whigs were the same way. What happened to them? They wouldn't. They were the establishment. They wouldn't come out aggressively against slavery. The Republican Party under John C. Fremont was formed, and Fremont was the first presidential candidate, not Lincoln, as a lot of people think. Lincoln was the first Republican to win, but not the first Republican presidential candidate. And down went the Whigs. And, you know, we'll go the same way if we're not careful. We better be careful because the Republican Party right now is very tenuous. But it's more important that we worry about the country, not the party, in my view.
I think Reagan said, you know, when he was a Democrat, he says, they left me. I didn't leave them. They left me.
There's nothing wrong with the platform of the Republican Party. It's people who get in power who think so much of themselves that they can go nominate people or force the nominations of people that don't stand on the principles of the party. I don't understand it. Well, we don't want to talk so much about the Second Amendment or abortion. It's too controversial. Well, that's what we're a party. We stand for what we believe in. That's what we're supposed to do.
Right.
I don't want to be a part of a party that doesn't want to stand up for what it believes in. I want people that respect that. And everybody's always talking about me being way over on the right. I'm in the mainstream of the Republican platform as opposed to the Republican Party, the Republican platform.
Have they changed the platform?
Not to my knowledge.
Exactly, that's the point.
Not to my knowledge. It's still pro-life, and yet we can't do this on the social issues. Why? I mean, what is more basic than life? Can you think about it, Kevin? If you're willing, as a government, to deny the right to be born of a human being in the womb, then what is next? Anything. Down the slope we go.
Right.
You think taking your doctor is a big deal? That's nothing. They're willing to take your life. Gene Shaheen's willing to take the life of an unborn child. So is Scott Brown. So why would we be surprised when she says, I'm going to take your doctor? Or he says, well, he's not in favor of Obamacare, to be fair. But she would say, I'm willing to take your doctor because I'm willing to take your baby in the womb. Come on.
And you know, what seems to, you know, years back, going through this whole process and the arguments, I believe it's a life, and I believe the baby, once it's conceived, should enjoy the equal protection under the 14th Amendment of the law.
That's my view.
Yeah, and I know my libertarian friends might disagree with that, but
well, I've had that argument. Excuse me for interrupting you. I've had that argument with libertarians, and I don't understand it because I really don't understand that, and it's a shame because that's one issue. And unfortunately, sometimes with libertarians, they don't want to give you any slack on any issue. You got to be 100% or they're not with you. But as I said, if they're libertarians truly, they should be outraged that a government would impose a death sentence on an innocent child. Because that's what
and
they're
not giving
doing.
them the protection.
And no protection.
Not
Correct.
even halfway out of the womb.
Partial birth abortion.
Partial birth with the scissors behind the head. I mean, this is graphic. It's gross, but it's happened. I don't know.
It's happened. I talked to people that saw it performed.
But allowing that is troubling as well, because what that means is you're allowing this for some convenience, some political reason to happen, because it's not politically correct to fight against it.
Well,
what about the seniors that are in the nursing homes? Will they be next?
Well,
what about the people?
That's the next question.
You know, if they can do that, if they can take that right, well then, let's give them a dignified death, and then you keep watering it
And
down.
who makes that decision?
Right.
Under Obamacare down the road. Mom's 90.
Don't resuscitate.
Yeah, mom is 90 or 95. She needs a hip transplant. Well, gosh, I don't think so.
Yeah, look at the time.
Yeah, look at the time. I mean, let's just give her a pill. I mean, you can laugh about this stuff, but you know what? It could happen. And you know the other thing, you were talking about partial birth abortion, but even worse are botched abortions. They happen every day in America.
I've heard testimonies
Babies
from
born
survivors.
alive from botched abortions that are literally thrown in garbage cans.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, but when you're 100% pro-choice, as Brown and Shaheen are, you support that, and that's wrong.
Well, and if you get on,
America, this is a stain on America, and it will be remembered. This era will be remembered with a big stain, just like the era of slavery for doing this.
I agree.
70 million babies, 70 million babies since Roe v. Wade.
And now that we have the ACA, and you sign up for the ACA, you've waived your HIPAA rights.
Yeah.
So that means it's no longer a privacy issue.
Right.
So if it's no longer a privacy, what I've never understood, have you ever seen a heart transplant on TV?
I've not seen a transplant, but I have seen heart surgery.
Heart surgery and kidney and all these other type of things. Nobody's showing an abortion. If it's just a blob, if it's just a tumor, let's see it happen. And I'm saying that not in a way that I want to see it happen, but for disclosure.
You won't see it.
Because it's ugly.
It's very ugly.
And it's cruel, and it's inhumane. It's a crime against humanity. I've always believed this. I always, sure, we have our privacy rights. I believe that as well. We are in charge of our own body. But once we have a life, there's two people there.
And the goal for all of us, everybody talks about criminalizing women. I've never advocated criminalizing women. What I'm advocating is trying to help women to see that it is a life. Show them the sonogram. Let them see it. Let them see that child. Let them see the beating heart. Let them see that little embryo and that little baby. Yeah. And it might make a difference. But when you deny them that opportunity,
right?
I mean, this is the.
There's no choice now. They don't allow you with all this free information.
I saw, you probably have heard of her. Gianna Jessen is her name. She's way much an adult now. But I saw her several years ago at the age of 21, where she was 21 years old, and she was the survivor of a botched abortion. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you something, boy, she was powerful.
I've heard her testimony on radio.
And she said, don't you tell me my life isn't important. She said, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the fact that a nurse who was assisting at an abortion decided to save my life.
Wow.
So that's pretty powerful stuff.
That is powerful. Speaking of that, one other thing, and we'll end up closing, but I remember when we were in the House and we were voting for right to work here in New Hampshire. And the unions came out, and of course they protested, and everybody has a right to protest. And we had to walk a gauntlet, and I can remember the fists and the fingers and the, I'm watching you type of thing, and the intimidation, the signs. And I had my tires slashed, and all that kind of stuff. And there, I could visualize seeing some of the old reps walking through this gauntlet and the blowhorns and all that. They had every right to do that. But just recently, there was a vote to take away that very same right.
Yeah.
And I do not,
House, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah. I do not condone intimidation at abortion mills or whatever they want to, Planned Parenthood. But when somebody's out there doing their rosary beads or praying for you or just, offering, please don't, please reconsider, here's some literature, why is that mean when they're just trying to help, as opposed to all this intimidation?
Because it's the left beating us again.
But they're restricting your First Amendment rights.
Sure they are.
And now
they're doing it, and they're getting away with it. They got the media on their side. They got the money. One of the things that we don't do very well is join together. We love to attack each other and beat each other up and not join together when it counts. They don't do that.
No.
They get together and they fight hard, and they fight dirty.
And they never stop.
And they never stop. It never stops.
Right.
Never. They always have you on the... Look at Bloomberg with the Second Amendment. $50 million he's put up against the NRA. He said, we're going to break them. And he's, of course, tied in with Scott Brown. So,
Wasn't the NRA formed to protect the blacks during the Civil War?
I don't know the answer to that.
Somebody brought that up to my attention.
Be,
that was one of the inceptions, so to give them arms so that they could protect themselves even during that particular period of time. But, you've got your First Amendment under attack, you've got your Second Amendment under attack, obviously your third, the equal protection under the law.
Fourth is under attack, too, with due process.
And it goes on and on. We need somebody, obviously.
But interestingly, on the Fifth Amendment, We get, we get,
I know where you're going with
we
this.
get a government official that we
Right.
paid for,
Right.
that we're paying her salary.
To
Lois
attack
Lerner,
us.
To attack, well, to attack us, and she takes the fifth, and she can get away with that
With a nice pension.
with a nice pension.
Same way with the FRM scandal. Somebody was under being subpoenaed and had to be accountable, and he walks out of the hearings.
I'm a believer, though, that eventually truth will prevail.
Mm.
May not come as fast as we like it, but I still have that optimism that truth will prevail, and right makes might.
And
Maybe I'm just a dummy, but that's what I believe.
how can people get in contact with you as far as supporting your campaign?
Well, hopefully it's up on the screen, but it was bobsmith4ussenate.com.
Mhm.
We have a great website and all the issues and questions. Most of the stuff that I probably didn't talk about tonight is on there, and you can, if it's not, ask and we'll get it for you. We'll get an answer. I'm not hiding anything.
Yeah.
I don't believe in that. I answer questions, as you can tell. I'm not ashamed of my views. And if you're in politics and you're ashamed of what you stand for, you ought not to be in politics.
Right.
Mel Thompson told me that early on. Stand for something or stand for nothing. Right. He's right.
When's your next speaking engagement?
Oh, goodness gracious. Let's see, I think Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here in Nashua or?
I don't know. Look at my
Somebody's
schedule. We've got a bunch of events coming up, I know that, but a whole bunch of them. So I try not to look at the schedule when I get up in the morning. I know we've got a bunch of things in the Seacoast coming up, and we've had I got an NRA dinner, I think, coming up, and a whole bunch of stuff in May. So we'll be busy. I think there's a Belknap County boat cruise on the Mount Washington.
Yep.
So there'll be all kinds of fun things.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show,
My
Senator.
pleasure.
Thank
Good
you
job.
very much. We wish you the best.
Thank you.
And that's it for Speak Up right now. And we appreciate you watching the show, and we hope that this informs you. It gives you a little better understanding of what Senator Smith is all about. And we hope that if you agree with him, that you'll definitely get out there and vote. Get active. This is an important election. So until next week, that's it for now. If you would like to be a guest on Speak Up, please contact me at speakupnh@gmail.com. We'll help you be heard.
Every day, citizens around the country are faced with new dilemmas. Dilemmas that affect them profoundly. Whether it's injustice, discrimination, falling through the cracks, scandals and cronyism, balances of power, ethics, religious freedoms, state versus citizens, and unfunded mandates, and the list goes on and on and on. Welcome to Speak Up. It's directed at those who have fallen through the cracks, and it gives them a voice. It's your turn to speak up. To stand up and fight back.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.